Hawley, who met with RFK Jr. Tuesday, said the two hit a lot of topics, including vaccines for children, food regulations, and abortion. Let's listen.
He said to me he does not believe the United States, these are his words, can be the moral leader of the free world and have abortion at this level. He thinks it's a top priority to get the number of abortions down in the United States and that the number of babies up, which is very interesting. Secondly, he said that he will absolutely implement President Trump's pro-life agenda without any question whatsoever.
Well, this is not good. It looks as though HHS Secretary nominee Robert F. Kennedy Jr. intends to go along with Republicans' hardline anti-choice policies, despite his mixed history on the topic of abortion. Now, at least that's what he allegedly told Senator Josh Hawley during their meeting on the Hill this week. So according to Hawley, RFK Jr. vowed to support efforts to reimpose restrictions on the abortion pill mifepristone if Trump asks him to do so. Mifepristone is the first of a 2-drug regimen used for medication abortions. Now, last year, the Biden administration actually removed some limitations on how patients could get the drug. Rather than being forced to get the pill in person, Biden's rule allowed mifepristone to be sent out through the mail, even in states that ban abortion. Now, Hawley is not a fan of that. And I just want to stop and say, there are areas in which I agree with Josh Hawley, and it's in regard to the financial industry, banks, junk fees, credit card companies. I've given him a lot of credit in the past for wanting to protect Americans from predatory behavior from these financial institutions. He deserves credit on that. On this is the kind of stuff I hate. This is the kind of big government nonsense where they're basically getting involved in your personal decisions about whether or not you are ready to bring children into this world. But here's what Hawley has said. He told reporters Wednesday, he suggested to Kennedy during a Tuesday meeting that it would be a wise idea to return to the rule under the last Trump administration, which required in-person dispensing of the drug. Now, understand if that's the case, obviously women living in states that have effectively banned abortion would have a much more difficult time getting mifepristone. We reviewed what the Biden administration has done on this issue, which is basically just to try and negate anything that's the state voters might do. So we talked about that. Kennedy acknowledged all of that, I think, and seemed to understand it. What do you mean the voters? If you look at the polling, the majority of voters, and that includes Republican voters, want to keep abortion legal in the first trimester. Okay, but it doesn't matter what the voters want because in these red states, especially in Florida, right? So in Florida, they had a ballot initiative in order to amend their state's constitution to protect reproductive rights. A majority of Florida voters, I believe about 56%, voted in favor of that, but it didn't meet the 2/3 requirement in order to, or 60, it needed to pass by 60%, I believe.
That's right.
Yeah, in order to pass. And so the majority of voters in Florida want it to be legal, but it doesn't matter because it didn't meet that threshold.
And that's because the Republicans in Florida know that all their policies are unpopular. That's why they moved the threshold from 50 to 60 recently in the legislature, because they know that if you have real democracy, they're gonna get outvoted. And they were getting tired of getting outvoted on the ballot measures. They're like, oh, there's these people, I mean, we've tricked them into voting for Republicans. But when we do it issue by issue, minimum wage, letting felons vote again, they keep voting for the popular positions. We don't want the popular positions, we want our positions, right? So that's why they moved it up to 60. So on this issue, guys, so sometimes MAGA guys online or whatever will say, but Cenk, you're so anti-establishment and Kamala Harris was so pro-establishment, she is the establishment, so why'd you vote for her? Well, because of reasons like this, I don't agree with your policies. So now it's gonna be much harder to get this drug, very, very likely in the country because elections have consequences. So I don't want abortion to be harder to get. I don't want people dying because they couldn't get an abortion. I don't want their lives being changed because the tyrannical government told them what to do with their bodies.
Yeah.
So, I mean, mifepristone is something that's almost certainly going to happen. Mexico City policy happens under every Republican, so that means, we could explain that more in a second, but that's going to get taken away, so groups that are helping in other countries can't promote abortion in any way, shape, or form. And then, but how much are they going to eat into abortion rights? We don't know. We're going to find out soon. And Kennedy being pro-choice is irrelevant. Trump's the president.
So Josh Hawley also says, I think he's going to follow Trump's lead, meaning RFK Jr. will follow Trump's lead, which is fine. I'd be disappointed if the president doesn't reimpose these basic parameters on mifepristone that existed up until the last 18 months. Now, Trump has seen how much of a political liability restricting abortion has been for the Republican Party, so I don't know what Trump is likely to do. And so he suggested in a recent interview that he didn't have any plans to reimpose limitations to mifepristone, but he did have some caveats. Take a look.
More than half of abortions in this country are medication abortions. Will you restrict the availability of abortion pills when you're in office?
I'll probably stay with exactly what I've been saying for the last 2 years, and the answer is no.
You commit to that?
Well, I commit. I mean, do things change? I think they change. I hate to go on shows like Joe Biden. I'm not going to give my son a pardon. I will not, under any circumstances, give him a pardon. I watched this, and I always knew he was going to give him a pardon, and so I don't like putting myself in a position like that. So things do change, but I don't think it's going to change at all.
Look, I think he really wanted to take some digs at Biden for reneging on what he had committed to do, which was avoiding the pardon of his own son. But look, I don't know, because Donald Trump is a little bit of a wild card, right? And it's not like he hasn't lied before. So this is disturbing, to say the least. I don't know what's going to end up happening. All I know about Trump is that he likes to be popular. So restricting the abortion pill, I don't think is going to be a popular move. We'll see what happens.
So this is where he's, not only going to have to, I don't know about compromise, but at least negotiate with a portion of his base, and both in the Senate and Congress overall, and in the voters. And I don't know which way the negotiations are going to end. So what I mean by that is that the evangelical Christians used to be the #1 group within the Republican Party, and they had enormous power. They are now greatly diminished in their power. They're not totally gone. Mike Huckabee is an evangelical Christian, and he got ambassadorship to Israel. That guy's a total loon. And so there's a bunch of floating around, but then there's guys like Hawley who are interestingly populist in some economic direction, but when it comes to social issues, is much more hardcore evangelical. I don't know if he himself is, but his policies are in that direction. So does Trump feel pressure to give them something so he doesn't lose that portion of his base, or does he feel pressure to not be unpopular, which this will, 70% of the country basically wants this pill to be available. So it's hard to tell, but my guess is that he'll draw the line, as I said earlier, on Mexico City policy, getting rid of it, as every Republican president does, and probably make it harder to get mifepristone. But do they then get into a national ban, 15 weeks, 6 weeks?
I don't think that's gonna happen.
So that's probably where the rubber hits the road, and that is probably less likely, but you never know. And so this is where we are, where there's an internal battle within the Republican Party on how much to push on this unpopular issue. Thanks for watching the video, guys. We also love it if you hit the join button below, because that makes you a member, and members allow us to be independent, honest. We can be as progressive as we want, no corporate media influence, and that's all because of you guys. We love doing the show with our members. Hit the join button, become one of the Young Turks.